In Chapter 13 of Birthright against enemies with 100 crit, we are up against increasingly powerful enemies that all have 100 crit. On this map, there are multiple houses that we can visit for loot, but more importantly, there are many powerful promoted enemies that can do devastating amounts of damage with critical hits. I use Wolfgang, the Grey Knight that I captured last chapter, to great effect because he has 22 base defense, which becomes 29 defense with a rank up pair up and the guard Naginata. This is vastly higher defense than any other unit that I currently have, and it lets him solo a tremendous number of enemies, while I use the rest of my army to secure treasure from the houses. I use a Dragonbait to drop Hans down to 1 HP and then take him out along with the rest of the enemies on the bottom of the map, and then move on to fight the stationary enemies at the top of the map by baiting them on an individual basis. And by doing this, I managed to capture a Wyvern Knight, another excellent high defense generic. Pretty much any promoted generic that I capture can be easily slotted into my army because so many of my actual units are under leveled and have poor weapon rank because it's been nearly impossible to train them effectively. I use Hinoka to bait out the boss, Camilla, and Hinoka's extremely high resistance renders her impervious to Camilla's attacks. But once the boss is defeated, all the remaining foes move all at once, which ends up being pretty dangerous. I get put into a pretty sticky situation where a general could one-shot Korn with a critical hit, but I find I'm able to exploit the enemy AI to get out of this potential game over scenario. The enemy, despite having their guaranteed crit flags enabled, do not actually know that they will always get a critical hit, and so their AI actually prioritizes avoiding counterattacks. Instead of choosing to vaporize Korn with a critical hit, an enemy general instead uses his javelin to avoid a counterattack, which lets me just barely survive enemy phase. This AI quirk, unique to this challenge, lets me buy some time for Wolfgang to swing around and whack the general with the Chapter 12 hammer, something that only he can do because he's the only unit with enough axe rank. I use this opportunity to capture this general and then clean up the rest of the enemies to complete the chapter. The loyalty of these newly captured generics is bought with a week's worth of groceries, which is a cheap price considering that in this challenge, they are just better than most actual Birthright units that you get up until this point.